Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Youth Lead the Charge speaker series. We are very excited to be spotlighting Katrina Linden, the Western Regional Director for Young Invincibles, who is based out of LA. She most recently served as the Director of Public Affairs for the Campaign for College Opportunity, a California-based policy advocacy organization dedicated to closing racial equity gaps in college access, affordability, and success for all Californians. Katrina has over 7 years of experience in policy advocacy, coalition building, and community engagement, and is passionate about building new connections and empowering Californians to advocate for change. Katrina is also the founding co-director of the New Leaders Council, NLC of Orange County, which is great. Our executive director, Clarissa, is also a member of the Sacramento NLC, so we love NLC here, a national organization dedicated to developing and empowering place-based leaders. She's a member of the Notre Dame Club of Orange County as an alum of the University of Notre Dame, where she double majored in American Studies and Latino Studies. And she's a graduate of the Coro Southern California Women in Leadership Program and previously served on the NLC Sacramento as a 2022 fellow and the FemDems of Sacramento board. So thank you so much for joining us today, Katrina.
Thank you. And thank you for that lovely introduction.
Of course. I know it's like can feel so awkward when there's just like your face and your bio on on a screen. So I always have like great empathy. But I'm just gonna get started with my questions. So both at the Campaign for College Opportunity and at Young Invincibles, your work fundamentally includes building coalitions. What does coalition building actually require that most people underestimate? And how do you hold a coalition together when partners have overlapping but not identical goals?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I was thinking about it and just reflecting on all the different coalitions I've been a part of that I've had the opportunity to lead and to be a participant in. But I think one of the biggest like learning lessons is not just leading a coalition, but at the same time creating for space for others within those coalitions to lead. It's really easy to say, I run XYZ coalition and our priorities are one, two, three for the year, and we're all going to move along with it. But that kind of coalition building and leadership isn't necessarily effective when you want to make sure you have like buy-in from everybody within the group. So something that's really valuable is ensuring that all perspectives are heard in in all coalition spaces, and that we're able to lead what others are focused on and passionate about, as well as leading towards that number one mission. And then also connecting people with similar ideas, being in both the policy space, the coalition building space, partner spaces in general. I always love when I'm able to connect with coalition partners and then say, oh, you have this interest, let me connect you with this person, or connect these lines with different organizations. And I find that to always be a really fun part of coalition building, of partnership building, of creating relationships with folks that go beyond the transactional and actually into what are your passions, what do you care about, and how can we collectively help one another in reaching our goals, regardless of how different they are.
Amazing. Now, you've worked on a lot of issues in your work, including things like racial equity and issues like racial equity, gender equity, like equity issues in general, especially when it comes to college access, and as policy issues have become increasingly like politically contested with debates over affirmative action, DEI programs, and state funding kind of all intersecting. So where's the line between being strategically nonpartisan and being vague about what you actually stand for?
Um, Thank you. And I like my immediate reaction to this question was the idea that like racial equity shouldn't be a partisan issue. When YI and organizations like ours are trying to decide how do we lead with our mission, which is supporting racialized communities and reaching their economic goals and supporting them through civic engagement, all the great things we stand for. We shouldn't have to make the decision between what's right and what's popular, and oftentimes what's right isn't popular, or maybe funders or partners or the government, whoever it is, might be scared to take on racial equity or to take on issues like affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. But ultimately, I think when we look back on our work 10 years from now, we don't want to have to say we pulled back on racial equity because it wasn't popular. We want to be on that right side of history, right? And saying that at the end of the day, we recognize that our Black, Latinx, AMP communities, immigrant communities, whoever it might be, we're under attack during this time. And we have that courage and ability, along with so many of our partners and funders and just amazing folks in this space, to say it with our chest and to say we will support racial equity, even if it is a controversial issue in some ways. So I think that's what I'm really proud of organizations like ours when DEI is becoming like a bad word that we're able to continue our work with that same passion and dedication to what we all collectively stand for that I think is really powerful. Yeah.
Love that. I love that. Like your bio mentions, you know, you are a first generation college student. You're from an immigrant family, and many of our fellows in this program are also first generation college students and also from immigrant families themselves. And so it can feel like kind of switching into your journey in the civic space. It can often feel like civic institutions like City Hall, legislative offices, advocacy organizations, even can feel like they weren't designed for people like us who come from our background, who come from a similar journey as us. How did you, in your own journey, learn to navigate those spaces without losing the perspective that makes you effective in them?
Yeah, I struggle with this one because I don't know if we ever learn how to not feel imposter syndrome or feel like we're in rooms where we're the only person with our own lived experience. Alexandra, I'd love to hear who's in the room today after we get through our questions and like kind of what your lived experiences are and maybe where I can speak more as well to those pieces. But I think what I'm always drawn back to is like being your most authentic self and holding the space that you deserve as an individual, not just because of your experience or your background. And what helped me realize like I deserve to be here and I deserve to hold this space is just thinking about like I hold the power in being able to insert myself in places where doors were closed for me or where space wasn't made at the table, and using that as a source of empowerment and kind of like rebellion, right? When people say there's no room for you here in these conversations, like, okay, then that's going to empower me. That's going to empower young folks in our organization and the work that we're doing to take hold and to create that space for ourselves. And as you mentioned, I grew up with um, like my mom got her GED. She never went to college. My father never graduated from college and he got a certificate, right? And oftentimes I think about how I'm the first person in my lineage to like be in these rooms. And there's like quotes out there and stuff of people saying this all the time. But when I think about like what my grandma would say, like she wouldn't even understand the kind of rooms that I'm taking up space now in these political spaces in the state capitol, and the really tremendous work that we all do. And then I feel like that holds so much power to say, like, I've lived these past 30 plus years of my life. My grandma lived the life that she did so that people coming after her could have these spaces. And I think that makes me a little emotional because it like creates so much power. And I think it's something all of us should remember when we're in these spaces is that our ancestors have done what they have so that we can have the opportunities that we have now. And it's really up to us to like create that space.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm sure like our fellows will love to tell you more about themselves during our exclusive fellow Q&A. But before we get to that, we just have one more question. You've worked across policy advocacy, coalition building, which we talked about, elected leadership development, and community organizing in like SAC, Orange County, and now for the entire Western region on behalf of Young Invincibles. No pressure there. But if you could go back to your first year doing this work, whether that was professionally in college when you first got involved in kind of organizing, what would you do differently? And what would you tell yourself to protect?
You are asking the tough questions today. So I started my career doing like project management, and like very quickly realized I did not love that, like construction management work, and then quickly moved into policy advocacy. Like in the back of my head, I always knew like my passion lies in the policy work and the equity work and whatnot. And I think coming out of college, instead of just taking the first job that was going to give me security, like if I took a step back now, I would have probably gone after my passions a lot sooner than I did. Right away, you're never going to be making the six figures, whatever, like career advancement that you might be 10, 15 years into your career. But looking back, I always think like I wish I had started sooner in the work that I knew I was passionate about. And I think having also like more confidence in what I know and what I don't know. Like I would say I got my first job in like the policy space just by being passionate about what I care about and like knowledgeable about my own experience, about my family's experience. And I really loved that my boss at the time recognized that and took a chance on somebody who maybe wasn't a political science expert, but who had that desire to learn and to grow. So to flip that question, like what would I do the same? It's like that bringing that same passion to the space and recognizing like you're not going to be on an expert on everything, but you're an expert about yourself and your own experiences, and that's going to really translate into your work down the line. Um, and I also think about not taking no as an answer. I often like if I heard no on the first time, like, okay, well then I'm not gonna get, whatever I asked for in the space. And no is never in the policy space, in the entrepreneurial space, that's never the final answer, right? No might just mean it's not going to be the opportunity at this time to move forward this policy priority or this piece of your career advancement. But hearing that should be empower you to say, like, okay, in 1 year's time, I'm going to get that no to a yes, or I'm going to succeed at what I was trying to eventually. And again, using that kind of rejection or discouragement as power and as that opportunity to rebel against like whoever said you can't do something and making it happen. So I think that's kind of the energy I like to bring to my work. And kind of when I reflect on the last, it says 7 years, but I think it's more like 8 or 9 years now as I get older, when I reflect on my early career for sure.
Totally. I love the way you said that. It can often be, like you said, like a framing issue. Like no can mean not right now or not this way. Like rejection is redirection, all of those different like ways of thinking about it. Well, thank you so much, Katrina. It was awesome to ask you my questions. I'm now going to stop recording and then we'll turn it over to the fellows for them to ask you theirs. But thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.